Internet social media has completely changed the political sphere.
A dialogue is emerging, and barriers are being torn down between the king and the commoners.
Who is Barack Obama? The answer is right there on my Facebook page.
It is the citizen who has the most to gain in this brave new world.
9 out of 10 videos watched that mentioned Obama and McCain were produced by citizens trying to influence each other.
It no longer takes money or power to wield influence and create change.
I think that we're moving into a new era of governance and democracy that can be based on active citizenship.
These technologies are really powerful,
They have changed us and the way that we communicate with people.
as well as us having changed them to suit our own needs.
But we would like to suggest revolutions
Whether social or technological,
don't just happen out of the blue.
in relation to the revolutions that have been occurring throughout North Africa and the Middle East throughout the year,
Although they appear to us Westerners to have sprung out of thin air, for those who actually understand the context behind the revolutions,
such as Dr. Michael Wills from Oxford University,
it is actually clear that they are something that have been building up over a long period of time.
in the same way we can see this pattern in the so-called digital revolution.
What has been building up over time in the digital revolution is something similar to what has happened in the social revolution.
When people rise up against the traditional authority figures,
The everyday people are taking hold of the power usually used by the elite.
and using it for themselves. In a digital revolution, this happens when the technology becomes more affordable and accessible.
Let's have a look at particular communication technology and the way it is used by both those in power as well as everyday people for different purposes.
We can see the change in the use of the technology in order to suit individuals' needs.
Just like how social media platforms were used in starting up revolutions, something which they were originally not intended for.
Graffiti is a particularly interesting example as it demonstrates the constant struggle between the people in authority and everyday people in taking control of the technology.
Going back centuries, in Pompeii for example, graffiti was used by everyone, from those in authority who used it for election campaigns, to everyday people who just wanted to be heard.
Here are some more recent examples.
From sarcastic and humorous to taking control of spaces traditionally used by the authority,
To assert themselves or to make a point.
even though today graffiti is illegal, we still see it everywhere,
This comes from our inherent need to be heard.
showing the struggle that we have with those in power, coercion and consent. We can see this, for example, in this picture,
It's funny, but it also demonstrates a very important point.
that those in power are trying to take control of this communication device, paint, while others are trying to override it in order to be heard.
Living in a city with graffiti, we can see this constant push and pull as graffiti is constantly being put up and taken down.
People are pushing to be heard, and at the same time, those in authority are trying to suppress them.
As communication technologies continued, they became slightly different as they were created with a particular purpose in mind.
Not immediately easily accessible or affordable for everyone, but originally used by those with power and wealth. We see this in the radio, a technology that was originally used by armies and navies across the world for coordination, in particular during the 2 world wars.
However, as this technology became more popular, it became more affordable and accessible, changing the way it was used. For
from being used by high-profile government organisations to a more commercial and entertaining use.
The Columbia Broadcasting System and its affiliated stations present Orson Welles and the Mercury Theatre on the air in The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells.
Wait a minute, something's happening. Some shape is rising out of the pit. I can make out a small beam of light against a mirror. There's gas tanks of the automobiles spreading everywhere. It's coming this way now, about 20 yards to my right.
Ladies and gentlemen, due to circumstances beyond our control, we are unable to continue the broadcast from Grover's Mill.
War of the Worlds was an early example of taking the format generally used by the news authorities in this case and using it for their own purposes to tell a fictional story. At this stage, people were so unused to someone telling a story in this way that they actually believed that the Earth was being attacked by aliens. Whereas today, it is not unusual for us to make parodies of authorities in order to entertain. As you can see, this constant struggle between coercion and consent in a hegemonic society is often characterized by who has power over the communication technologies. In this way, you can see that there really has been a digital technology revolution. We recognize more and more the power that the users have over the technology. Let's see what happens when at first, everyone obeys the rules that are set out for them by the original producer of the communication medium.
Have a good day, everybody. You are all wonderful.
But then, in a similar way to users of ARPANET, they turn the technology available to them into a personal messaging device.
Welcome back to New York, Candace. Hey, you with the umbrella. The blue umbrella. Oh, I really like it. It's pretty.
Eventually, it was transformed into a creative outlet. This is a very flexible piece of communication technology, as it allows you to broadcast just about anything you want. Which is why people were able to use it in such diverse ways in the space of just a day. Businesses have started to recognise this transformation of their technology for alternate uses, and as a consequence, have formed their technology and based their business models around the idea that users will inevitably take control of what they're given. This means that they are often designed as open-ended or unfinished products. There is of course still a struggle for control. This admission of the user's power is evidence of a revolution. We see this, for example, in Twitter, an extremely flexible tool. Most of its defining characteristics are the result of user innovation. For example, the hashtag and the @ symbol that are used to reply to one another's comments were invented by the user base rather than the original producer. It's like what Stephen Johnson says, because we've been doing our readings. It's like inventing a toaster oven and looking around a year later and seeing that your customer has, of their own accord, changed it into a microwave. Facebook, as we have mentioned earlier, has been used as a massive communication tool to organise enormous demonstrations for the protests in North Africa and the Middle East. This is a far cry from its original creation, Rate the Hottie at the University of Harvard. YouTube is an example of an open business model that was really successful. It is simply a video hosting site on which users can post, within the boundaries of the law, anything that they like. To flash mobs, social media revolution demonstrations, advertising for businesses and purposes. Connect, originally an Xbox accessory that's a motion sensor, because of the way it was built, enabled the consumer to create it for their own uses. From things such as surfing the net hands-free, to creating 3D models that could then be translated into a computer program, to also using it as a training military tool. In the same way, in a society after a revolution, the way that it is governed changes according to the demands of the revolutionaries, and it gives them more power. Something similar is happening in the digital revolution, where the user now has more power over the traditional authority and over the technology that they use. We believe that those businesses that are most likely to succeed are the ones that are most open to user innovation.